Human interaction with technology has witnessed remarkable change. The fourth industrial revolution is upon us, and artificial intelligence, computer sciences, mathematics and computing, and electrical and/or electronics engineering, which are powering new technologies, are at the core of the transformation. We are launching the Reliance Foundation scholarships in artificial intelligence, computer sciences, mathematics and computing, and electrical and/or electronics engineering to nurture future young leaders who will be at the forefront of fulfilling India's dream of a digital tomorrow. Our aim is to support you, the brightest youth of this nation, and to create a community of scholars who are uniquely positioned to lead India's technologically driven growth. The application and selection process is spread across 5 stages, starting with an online eligibility questionnaire, followed by an online application form. At the first level selection, applications will be evaluated, after which shortlisted candidates will move to a second level selection process for interviews. And finally, scholars will be announced. The Reliance Foundation scholarships will nurture future leaders who understand the potential of these future technologies and aim to use it to innovate to create seamless solutions for the advancement of Indian society and beyond. We look forward to your application.
So, isn't that extremely exciting? So, here we are calling all you digital citizens to take that first step, apply to the Reliance Foundation scholarships. And to help you in this journey, today we are joined by an esteemed set of personalities who are going to make the application process a complete cakewalk. And they are going to share suggestions and advice that will set you up for success. So, to set the ball rolling, let us call upon our first speaker, who will give you an overview of the entire application process. Let us welcome Carla Gomez, Program Development Lead for Reliance Foundation. She has been deeply involved in the development and delivery of the Reliance Foundation scholarships. A management graduate from INSEAD Paris and an alumnus of Yale University, Carla has previously worked for Education First in London, Ashoka Innovators for the Public managing their executive in residence program, and for JP Morgan in their debt capital markets team working with UK corporates. She's closely crafted this program, and who better to start this webinar? Hi, Carla. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Arati. Thanks so much.
A very good afternoon to you, considering you're joining us from London.
Yes, exactly. It's still the morning.
Okay, so I think before we get into knowing a lot more about the application process, let's actually take a look at some tips that will probably help our students with this application process. Let's take a look at that.
Hi everyone, I'm here to give you some tips and tricks to get your application ready before the deadline. First, I want to talk about the application process. You will need to fill the eligibility questionnaire on our website www.scholarships.reliancefoundation.org. If you are eligible, you will receive an email invitation with OTP details to apply through the application portal. You can then go ahead and fill out the application form, which is made up of the following components: personal and contact information, 2 reference letters, academic and professional information, 2 essays, achievements and awards, and supporting documents. I wanted to give you some tips on preparing and submitting your supporting documents. Review the FAQs and guidance to applicants on our website and make a checklist of all required documents. Start collecting and uploading the documents right away. Don't wait for the last day. Review each document after you upload to ensure it has been uploaded successfully. And finally, here are our top 3 tips on submitting your application on time. Set aside some time each day to work on your application. Set a deadline for yourself even before the final deadline. Make a checklist of all application components and plan accordingly. And remember, you can always text hi on WhatsApp at 7977-100-100 with any questions, or email us at rf.scholarships@reliancefoundation.org. Good luck with your applications.
That really sums up the process really well. However, Carla, please tell us more about the Reliance Foundation scholarships application as well as the selection process.
Sure. So I think that was well summarized by the video, but effectively students need to go onto our website and fill in the eligibility questionnaire that has very basic eligibility criteria that will let you know whether you're eligible or not. Eligible students are then sent an email invitation inviting them to apply through our application platform. So eligible students can then sign up to the platform and start their application. In terms of what the application is made up of, it's 6 main sections. So you have the personal and contact information, the 2 reference letters, and the 2 essays. And these are the 2 sections that this session will focus on the most. So we'll be giving much more tips and guidance on how to write the 2 essays and how to guide your referees on getting your references in and to have strong references. Then we have academic and professional information. So, grades at high school and also at undergraduate for those applying at postgraduate level, and mark sheets of examinations like the JEE Main or the GATE. We have an awards and achievements section. So that will allow students to fill in details of any extracurricular activities that they may have participated in, community involvement, and any awards that they may have received. So we're really looking at the student in a very holistic manner, and all of these details will really help us assess the students. And finally, we have all the supporting documents. So, there's a list of supporting documents, including things like, address proof and passport photograph and transcripts. And we can go into those in more detail as well. So that's a little bit of, what the application consists of. In terms of the selection process, again, this is a very competitive process that will take the students through, and it's a 2-step selection process. So first of all, the submitted applications will be reviewed by a set of panelists that are experts in the field and also academics in the technology field. Shortlisted students will then go on to the interview phase. We'll have short interviews with all of those shortlisted students. And then the final selection will be made on the back of those 2 sets of evaluations.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for breaking that down for us, Carla. Before we move forward, I'm just going to nudge all our students who've joined in to use this opportunity to get onto the comment box and put in any questions that they might have for all our panel members, and we'll address them through the session. So get cracking. Let's move forward, Carla. Thanks once again to really break down the entire application and selection process. But let's see if you have any suggestions for students on how they can get their applications ready in time.
Yeah, so I would recommend that students start now. So don't wait to start your application. It's really helpful to sign into the portal if you're eligible, familiarize yourself with the portal itself and with all of the questions, and start collecting the list of supporting documents that are required. So, the pieces that you'll find you'll be spending the most time on are the essays, and collecting all the supporting documents, and also reaching out to your referees to make sure that they have the right time and information to write your references. So I recommend that you start early, and as the student in the video recommended, that you create a checklist with everything you need to have your application ready in time. And you don't wait until the last minute to submit. There's always, you can always encounter technology issues with your connectivity, and you don't want your system to crash in the last minute, because we won't be giving exceptions to that deadline. So please do start early.
Yeah. So everyone out there, Carla is extremely strict. You will not get an extension. So please ensure that your applications come in time. But Carla, I heard you mentioning supporting documents. So maybe if you could elaborate on what are some of these supporting documents that the students need to prepare, and if there are any suggestions for those.
Yeah, so we have supporting documents include your address proof, your passport photograph, your current resume. Then you'll also need to have your academic mark sheets and transcripts ready, and that's both from your 10th and 12th grades, but also if you're a postgraduate applicant, we'll need your undergraduate transcripts. If you've taken the GATE examination, we'll need your GATE transcripts, and for undergraduate, the JEE Main transcripts. We'll need also your bona fide certificate or student ID to prove your current institution and course of enrollment to ensure that it's eligible, the degree program. And then there are some documents that may or may not be applicable depending on the student for things like experience certificates, if you've done work experience, which is not mandatory, disability certificates, mark sheets of GATE or JE Advance. Again, these are all supporting documents that may or may not be relevant.
Great, thanks, Carla. I think this certainly helps the students getting to know what all could be required. And for everything that Carla's mentioned, I think you do have the time right now. So please go ahead and apply. Thanks so much for joining us, Carla. But before you leave, if you would like to share any advice for our students who are going to be applying to the process.
Sure. I think my main advice would be to go ahead and apply and, believe in yourself. You don't know if you'll get selected or not. And a lot of the feedback that we got from the current scholars that were selected last year is that the process itself of writing the applications, of writing the essays is a really great experience of introspection, of thinking about your goals. And it's something that will be valuable experience for any job or any course that you're applying to thereafter. So I'd encourage you to apply, and we hope that you do. And best of luck with your applications.
Thanks so much, Carla. And it sure does sound like an extremely exciting and, of course, a process with a lot of learning for oneself. So once again, thank you so much for joining us, and a big nudge to all our students to go ahead and apply. Thanks for joining us, Carla, and all the very best for this edition.
Thanks, Arti.
So with that, let's move into the next segment where we will walk you through very important components of the application process, like Carla mentioned, which is the essays and the reference letters, and what you can do to stand out as a prospective Reliance Foundation scholar. So it's time now to invite our distinguished panelists and experts. Our first panel member is Abhimanyu Basu, Dean and CEO at the Dhirubhai Ambani International School. His experience in the IB world includes being a teacher, senior examiner, workshop leader, and presenter at conferences. A trainer in classroom pedagogy and leadership, he has presented at international forums and is also a consultant and leader of accreditation teams for international schools globally. A very warm welcome to you, Abhimanyu. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Our next panel member is Nitika Thakur. Nitika is the head of careers and college counselling at Dhirubhai Ambani International School. She is a compassionate counsellor, advocator, and passionate educator. She started in the education counselling space in 1995 and has an extensive experience in counselling seminars, workshops, and engaging with the diverse international community at renowned conferences for various international universities. Thanks for being with us, Nitika. Really nice to have you.
Good evening.
Our third panel member is Ms. Shabari Kar. She is a college counselor and psychology teacher at the Dhirubhai Ambani International School. Shabari has 25 years of experience and has had the privilege to work with students in the UK, Middle East, and India from a variety of backgrounds and academic ability. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Shabari. Thank you so much for joining us, and a very good evening to all of you.
Good evening, everyone.
So thank you, all of you, for joining us. I think there's just so much curiosity around the scholarship. And, it is great that we have experts like you to help our students out through this process. But before we delve deeper into each of these aspects, let's quickly play a small video on some tips for essays.
Hi everyone, I'd like to give you some insights and tips for writing your application essays. The application requires you to write 2 essays and there is a limit of 4,000 characters for each. 4,000 characters may seem like a lot, but it is actually around only 700 words each. Essay number 1 is the personal statement. This essay really gives you an opportunity to paint a picture about yourself in your own way. Who are you? What matters to you? And what are your goals? It should highlight your personal history and background. Tell us about your educational and professional background and your future aspirations, as well as any challenges that you have faced and the ways in which these experiences have affected you and your personal growth. How does your story reflect your commitment to the Reliance Foundation Scholarship, values of excellence, your leadership potential, integrity, courage, community commitment, and growth mindset? You can also include your special abilities and interests, career plans, and life goals. Essay number 2 is the statement of purpose. How will the scholarship enable you to achieve your goals? This statement should explain how the course that you are studying will nurture you and enable you to achieve your full potential and aspirations for your future career. Some of these questions may be helpful. What motivates you to pursue the course that you are studying? How will this course enable and nurture your growth? And remember, try to be clear and concise. The evaluators reading your proposal want you to get to the point about the who, what, when, where, why, and how of your program choice. What are our top 3 tips for writing your essay? Number 1, talk about yourself honestly and truthfully. Number 2, make it personal. You are your best content and tell us about what motivates and drives you. Number 3, connect with teachers or mentors for feedback. Proofread your essays to ensure there are no spelling or grammatical errors.
Such simple yet very pertinent tips have been shared, and really good to have all of you here with us. Let's get straight at it. Before we do that, I'm just going to quickly nudge our students once again to make the most of this opportunity and share in their questions in the comment box. With that, Nitika, let's start with you. So, what is the personal statement? Can you explain that in a little more detail to us?
Yeah, sure. It The student did put it quite well in the video. So the personal statement, just like he said as well, is an opportunity to advocate for yourself. It's that component of the application that reflects your voice. It speaks about who you are. So, a personal statement highlights your personal motivation for applying for this program. And in that, you can talk about the major accomplishments that you may have had till now or the adversities that you have faced that define who you are. It is actually the lesser formal component of both these essays. Um, and what I'd like to say is that what predominantly comes out of your personal statement are your soft skills, such as it could be adaptability, compassion, being a good teammate, a friend, or a leader. These are the aspects that come out of a personal statement.
Great, thanks for that, Nitika. And of course, I think what the students should focus on is everything that Nitika shared should essentially come out with certain instances that would be able to, elaborate what she just shared. It's interesting. We already have quite a few questions that are coming up on the chat window. I'm going to pick up one, which is from Ashish Singh. And I think that beautifully relates to what we were going to discuss next, Nitika, which is what are the characteristics of a good personal statement in your view? And if you could share some guidance, like you usually give to the students in your school as well during counseling.
So again, the student covered it in the video. Uh, it's very important to be authentic. Tell your story. This is your voice. It describes your background and the personality that you have curated through these experiences. And most importantly, you need to show the admissions committee how you are a good fit and how you will be successful if you are awarded this scholarship. And like you just like you said earlier, to give examples to validate that information, and that is what your personal statement is all about.
Great, thanks for that, Nitika. And Ashish, I hope this also helps your question on, what you should be mentioning in the essay. With that, I'm going to move to Shabari and let's tackle the second part of the essay, and that is the statement of purpose. So, what is a statement of purpose, and how should the students be approaching it?
Hi, Arati. So, a statement of purpose is the second component of the application being assessed in terms of the essays. And as Nitika was talking about, the personal statement being about your soft skills, about putting you forward as a person, your authentic voice. The statement of purpose, which sometimes is also called a letter of intent, is a more formal piece of writing. So, what they're looking for here is this is a way for the admissions committee to assess your application in terms of your academic suitability, in terms of your academic passion for the subject. So, what kind of things should you include in your statement of purpose? The first thing is really important is to talk about your academic background and show the journey of how you've come to want to do the major that you are opting for at the institution. So, why this institution, reasons why you wish to study this subject, any extracurriculars that you might have done, such as a or a research paper or an internship that actually show your passion and interest in the major that you are going for. And obviously, these are all related to tech. So this has to support that interest that you are demonstrating that you are a good fit and you will be a successful undergrad or postgraduate in that field. And it has to be evidence-based. All of the above, they need to be meaningful and they need to be backed up by examples and evidence. And this is the key. And I always say to the students, put yourself in the position of the person reading your application. You can make 100 statements, but if there's no evidence to show that that is exactly what you have done and how you have come to that position, my question would be, so what? You've done all this, so what? The key thing that the reader is looking for is showing your passion, your learning, your growth. So the statement of purpose needs to be written in a formal way. It is not a CV. It is you engaging with the experiences you've had in, say, AI or electrical engineering or your physics class. So the concrete examples are very, very important. The other thing is you have to put forward your passion. That is a really important thing within your statement of purpose as to why this is a suitable course for you and why you are a suitable student for this course.
Great, thanks so much for that, Shabri. I think you've really summarized what they should be doing in a grave amount of detail. If there is any specific advice or some tips that you'd like to share with them that they should certainly keep in mind when they are approaching this statement of purpose.
Yeah, I think one of the tips that actually, when I was thinking about this, one of the things is to write as a formal piece of writing. So, avoid the humorous slant that might be more in a personal personality. This is almost kind of factual. The other thing which obviously the student mentioned in the video, which is really important, is have it proofread. And also try and write a few drafts. The first draft is not necessarily the finished product because you will write it and then maybe go back to it and think, okay, I can improve this, or I've thought of something else that would actually represent this part of my application better. So don't be afraid to change it and let it evolve. That's another thing, which is why it's really important, as Carla mentioned, and also the student in the first video mentioned, to start early. So you have that organic evolutionary process that makes a really good statement of purpose.
Great. Thank you so much for those suggestions. And Abhimanyu, let's hear from you. You were on the panel last year while evaluating our Reliance Foundation scholars. So you have a lot of experience from this particular scholarship itself in having evaluated some of them. Could you elaborate on the differences between the personal statement and the statement of purpose? And also, if you have any specific observations from last year that can help in do's and don'ts for our students applying now.
Thank you, Aarti. So I'll probably start with what they should not be doing because I saw a lot of those things that they should not be doing. So while I reviewed the applications, one of the things which was a common pattern amongst most of the applicants, I won't say all, was that there was hardly any difference between the personal statement and the statement of purpose. Means it was sort of the same story, slightly paraphrased and written in different words. But as I think everybody understands, personal statement is the story of the individual. It is the strengths and weaknesses of the person. It is the personality. It is the leadership traits. It is how you connect with, and who are you as a person? What is your story? What is, how is it that you are coming in and, doing this program? Whereas the statement of purpose, on the other hand, is actually talking about, what have they accomplished? Why are they going into this connection? What is their connection with technology? Why are they actually doing any of these courses? And how will that, how will that, how will that sort of take them where they want to go? Where do they want to go? What do they want to be in life? How do they stand out? So those two different aspects needs to clearly stand out. And I think whoever is writing this for the application, they must understand one thing, that you are not doing justice to yourself if you are not telling the story to make you stand out. So you need to ask yourself, who, all these applicants who are writing, that what is it that you have in yourself, what is unique about you, which makes you stand out in the context of the application process, the foundation, and the scholarship and the course that they are doing. What are the skill sets that makes them unique? And that is something which needs to come out. Another big no-no is, do not copy things from your CV and put that into the personal statement or the statement. In quite a few cases, I did see that that was the case, and it just is it's a waste of whatever was written there, because you could very clearly understand that there is no reflection in the whole process on how they are representing themselves. So I would say that is my summary of this whole process. That the application has four different parts. One is the forms that you're filling. Then it is the CV, which tells you, what all you have accomplished as a person. The personal statement, which tells, whoever is reading it, what is your story. And the statement of purpose is basically telling them where you want to go, and what are the skill sets that you have accomplished. And I think that distinguish difference and approach needs to be there while the children are writing it.
Thanks, Abhimanyu, for actually summarizing that so well. In fact, I think the students should take this as an opportunity of getting different ways to being able to communicate that. And if they actually use the same language and they share the same story in each, they're actually missing out on that opportunity of being able to tell the scholarship committee about themselves. So I hope this has been helpful to all of you students. I'm going to come back to Shabari for another question, and which is, what would be the profile of Reliance Foundation scholar that should come out quite clearly in these essays?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really important, because obviously we are, there's so many applications, and the committee needs to actually differentiate between many students, and that becomes a challenge. Obviously the basic qualifications or basic personality traits or basic accomplishments will be pretty obvious from the website and filling in the form. But I've been thinking about this question actually, and for me, when I deal with my students, I always think about the fact that India, we as a nation, we're heading into a period of real change. And we're heading into a period of change economically, culturally, socially. And that mainly that's globalization, which has affected us. And it's bringing so many challenges and opportunities. And I think that the recipients of these scholarships need to be the drivers of change within India as a nation, but also the custodians of all the good things in our heritage. And for me, that's really important, that they have that blend, that they are leaders for change for India, but they're also custodians of all the precious things that we have and share as Indians. The other thing I think is, obviously, our future leaders are going to have to deal with a ever diversifying nation and world, and being able to be committed to being inclusive people, and people who are bent on ensuring that communities work together I think for me is a really important characteristic of the recipient of the scholarship, that is kept in their mind, that, as a nation, we succeed together, or we fail together. And as the future leaders of India, it's really important that they have that passion and drive to make sure that they have that sense of responsibility towards all our citizens. And I feel that very, very strongly about that. And if those qualities can come through, then I think they're going to be winners.
That's wonderful. And I think that very beautifully also, sort of exemplifies the objective of the Reliance Foundation scholarships, right? There's a huge match between what you just shared, Shabri, and the intent of the scholarships as well. So thank you so much for that. And, I think we should very quickly move into the next segment of our discussion, because there are just so many questions around reference letters that have started to pour in. And hence, let's move to that aspect. But before we do that, let's take a look at a quick video on the same.
Hi everyone. I'd like to tell you a bit more about the two reference letters that you will need to submit as part of your application. One is an academic reference, which should be from an academic who can comment in detail on your scholastic ability. So someone who has formally taught and graded you. This could be one of the professors who is currently teaching you in your course. Alternatively, if you're an undergraduate, you could also ask your high school teacher to write you an academic reference. Or if you're a postgraduate student, you could also request a reference from one of your undergraduate professors. The second reference is the character reference. This one should testify to your character and your involvement in extracurricular or leadership activities. These referees should be supervisors who are able to speak in detail about your character and comment on whether your personal traits are aligned with the scholarship's criteria. So, for example, this could be a mentor or a tutor with whom you've worked closely and knows about your extracurricular activities. Or it could also be another professional who knows you well. So, how does the reference process work? You'll need to nominate two referees in the application form by providing their name, designation, and email ID. After this, the referees will receive a system-generated email from Reliance Foundation asking them to submit their references online through the portal.
They will have until 21st February 2022 to submit their references. That is 1 week after the application deadline.
So what are our top 3 tips on reference letters? Well, number 1, nominate referees early. Give them at least 3 weeks to write and submit their references. Number 2, speak to your referees. Let them know you're nominating them and make sure they receive the system-generated email to log into the portal. Number 3, touch base with your referees to remind them a week before the deadline. They will get reminders from the system, but it's better to be safe than sorry.
So another set of great tips that have been shared. But Abhimanyu, just to discuss this a little more, you like we've discussed, have also got an experience from last year, and you've gone through quite a few reference letters. So what are your suggestions for students as they think about who they should be nominating as their referee?
I think the first point, Aarti, that they should be looking at is who knows them the best, who can represent them the best. And I'll just give you a small anecdote. Being the head of school, there are so many kids who come up thinking that I would best represent them. But that's not the story, because I would not know all the 120 kids who are graduating in a particular class. I may be knowing some of them. So I'm generally very frank with them, and I tell them that I can write a letter of reference, but I don't think I would be the best person to doing it, because here I don't think I know you well enough so that I can represent you well. And I think this is a question that they must be thinking about when they think about who should be writing the references. It is somebody who, first of all, is a teacher in the domain that they're going to study, because they are then going to talk about the skill sets, which they have actually acquired in the classroom or outside the classroom. They can also look at possibly somebody that they have worked with for a project or something like that, which is impressive, or done an internship under, because that shows the application of what they have learned within the classroom. But I think bottom line is someone who really knows you well and someone who has the time to write it for you. Don't look at somebody who is so busy, who is not going to spend more than 15 minutes and write a generic reference for you, because it's not worth the paper on which it is written. Because to the committee and to everyone who is reviewing that, it doesn't tell anything about you. And like saying that Aarti is a great child, she was excellent in my class, and she's such a good kid, but basically it's not saying anything to me. Why is Aarti a good kid, and why is Aarti great? What makes Aarti stand out? So I think they need to think about who are those people that they have, who have guided them in their life leading up to this domain that they are studying, who can represent them best, and who can tell a small story, give small anecdotes, which, as Shabari said, that you need evidence. The evidence should actually tell us why you have an quality X or Y or Z. And whoever can actually represent that, that's the person that they should be looking at writing their references. Not the person who is high up on the ladder in the institution that they are studying, but the person who has interacted the best with them or most with them.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Abhimanyu, for that. And I think students, you should take this opportunity to start thinking of who those, referees for you could be. I'm going to take the next question to you, Shabri. At times, there could be a little confusion about, the difference between an academic reference letter and a character reference letter. Could you elaborate on them and tell our students a little more about what those two are?
Sure. In a way, it kind of mirrors the personal statement and the statement of purpose. So, an academic reference needs to be somebody who has taught the student. And I'm in a fortunate position that I'm actually a classroom teacher at Dhirubhai Ambani, but I also work in the college counseling department. So, when I write academic references for my students, I will only refer to their progress, their growth within my subject. With, obviously, as Mr. Basu said, the key thing is to give examples. So how they worked on a group project, a particular essay when they went above and beyond and researched and found extra information, or a particular time when they were able to stand up in front of the class and give a presentation, etc. When you're writing a character reference, again, it's like Nitika mentioned in the personal statement, it's more about the soft skills. It's more about who that person is. And that's what we do when we write our college counseling reference as counselors. So we are advocating for the student as part of a community, as part of the body. Whereas as a teacher, I'm advocating for my student to be part of somebody's class, if that makes sense. So those to me are the key differences. The academic one needs to be somebody who has taught the child, taught the student, and can speak to their prowess in physics or mathematics or whatever domain they're going into. And the character reference is somebody who knows the person, knows their soft skills, knows them as a person, how they will react in the group, how will they be in a community, etc.
Great. So we have a question from Ansh Saxena, and I'm just going to direct that to you, Shabri, because it's related to what you just said. And that is, can we recommend only one referee for both of these letters?
I think you would be perhaps doing yourself a disservice because I think two different people can give two different sides of you. And I think that's really important, which is why within our school, we always have academic references and the college counselor giving a reference, because you are not a one-dimensional person. You have different skill sets in different scenarios. So I definitely think that you would be best served by finding people who can write for you in both domains, definitely.
Great, thanks for that, Shabri. Nitika, let's move to you. How can students help their referees with these letters? And if you have some guidance and advice to them for that.
Sure. So what we do in school, at least, is that we ask students to fill up a survey that responds to a lot of questions that will cover a recommendation in totality. And by answering those and giving that, like a brag sheet to your recommender, you're almost ensuring what goes into that recommendation. You're doing the thinking job for your recommender. So, for example, things that you could respond to in your brag sheet could be the strengths and skills that you have shown in this recommender's class. Again, give examples of the accomplishments. I mean, in so many scenarios, we have like one recommender writing many recommendations for students that have done pretty much have a similar profile. So this is where a question like this is of great help when you cover your strengths and skills in that classroom and giving examples of it, you know. Yeah.
Thanks, Nitika. In fact, I think that answers Manoj Kumar's question, where he actually wanted to know what should my teacher be writing in the reference letter. And I hope, Manoj, these tips from Nitika have helped you. There's another question, Nitika, which is again by Manoj, which is on is the essay different from the reference letter? And I think we've discussed that. If you might, want to just throw some light.
Yeah, sure. So it is very obviously different because the essays is your voice. It's that component of the application process where you get to advocate for yourself. Whereas the reference letters is what the teachers have to say about your skills in the classroom, how you've maybe taken it beyond, the research that you've done, the presentations, the assignments. So it's a little bit like in your essay, like I said, in the personal statement at least, you talk about the soft skills that have shaped you as a person, given where you are today. Whereas the recommendations talk about the skills that you have, acquired with the academic work that you've done, which are more, hard-standing skills. Yeah.
Correct. Thanks so much for that, Nitika. And thank you so much, all of you, for sharing such lovely suggestions with our students. And I really hope many of our students are already on the website and, are applying and also emailing their referees. We now move to the last segment, and that is the Q&A. And of course, while we've taken quite a few questions through the flow of our session today, let's take a few more from them. So, Abhimanyu, starting with you, and this is a question that we've received from Adarsh Shah, which is that what is the difference between a CV, SOP, and a personal statement, and how does one make it exclusive? If you could throw some light.
So I think first of all, let's start with the CV. I think in the CV, we are talking about children who are coming into undergrad courses or postgrad courses, right? So they should be listing about their main achievements, which is their grade 10, grade 12, what they have done outside the classroom, and any standout stuff, right? Things where they have probably stood out nationally or things like that. But again, I think sometimes where CVs really get boring because you start talking about an art competition that you won in grade 2, it's not relevant when you're putting in a CV for something which is for your UG level or a PG level. So similarly, I think the students need to make sure that they are utilizing the CV space well to highlight what they have achieved as individuals, both academically and non-academically. Any internships that they have done, and they should not think about anything which is small. So even if they have done an internship which is 3 months or a month or 2 months, that is something that they have done, especially if it's in the line of what they're going to study. So I think that highlighting bit is very important because we tend to undersell ourselves, many of us. So here it's not a question of selling, but here it's actually giving the correct picture on the other side of the table of some people who do not even know you as a person. So if you're not going to say what you have done, then you should not. But let us not mention irrelevant stuff. And I think I've given an example of that. So that's the CV. Now the statement of purpose and, and the what is the other one, which is the personal statement. So the personal statement is talks about you as an individual and what you have accomplished and where you want to go and what are your unique characteristics, your attributes as a person. Somebody can say, I'm sort of a go-getter, I'm sort of a internal person, I do not do this, but this is what amongst what I am, this is what I have being able to achieve. Somebody might like music, somebody might like writing, and this is really no connections, not so much, I would say, to what they want to do in life. Whereas the second one, which is the statement of purpose, that's your academic hard hitting stuff. And there you need to say, what made you interested in studying this particular course? Why are you getting into this? And what sort of other sort of internships and stuff that you have done which made you interested? Like, for example, everybody builds an app now, here or there. There are some of the kids that I interviewed last year. They were, doing apps, and they have done small projects, and they have done a software somewhere here or there. So try and highlight that, which shows your passion towards studying this particular course. And I think they must all remember the objective of this scholarship. This scholarship is given to which student, what are they supposed to study, and how they can connect themselves to some students who have got that passion to study that particular discipline. So whether it's mathematics, whether it's computer science, whether it's AI, how is it that interests them, and what are the skill sets that they have as individuals which make them stand out? And through these things, they must make the person, if that person is Abhimanyu, that person should be standing out, should be understood by somebody who do not know him as an individual. And that is clarity of communication which is needed.
So, Abhimanyu, now that we're on this, I'm just going to, pose a follow-up to this. You very rightly mentioned that these should also be bringing out or connecting to the objective of the scholarship. So, the objective of the scholarship is to support digital natives and future leaders in the field of AI, CS, mathematics, computing, electrical and electronics engineering. So, how can applicants actually bring that out, and through what means within the application process, such that they
I think the statement of purpose is the best way to bring that out, because that's where they're going to connect their academic prowess with what they have achieved. But the personal statement will talk about the traits. When you talk about, see, the scholarship talks about certain traits, like we talk about, what are the leadership skills they have. So while they're looking at the connection with the scholarship in terms of what they want to study, that should come out through the statement of purpose. Whereas the attributes that we are trying to look at for these individuals, leadership is leadership. You're born a leader. You do not pick up leadership. I'm quite a strong believer on this. Either you're a leader or you're a follower. There's nothing in between. And I think we have always seen that any people who are there, they have got these strong innate abilities. So those abilities are, and if they're a leader, they must have led somewhere in their school, in their college. So they must talk about those experiences, that this is what I have been able to do. So if you're somebody where social issues really affect you and you did something about it, that also talks about leadership. That also talks about sensitivity, right? So they need to figure out that how they bring those things out through the personal statement, which talks about who the person is. And the statement of purpose will talk about where the person wants to go and what are the skill set the guys have. What is their connection with maths, physics, and computer science and AI, and where do they want to go? And what evidence do they have? As Shabari said, first she said this story. Then what evidence do you have? Just saying Shabari is a good girl is not good enough. You need to say why you are a good girl. And what makes you a good girl, what makes you stand out. You need to tell a story and you need to evidence that story. So they need to understand, tell small stories in 2 lines, which gives the person on the other side an understanding, okay, this is the reason. Okay, this is something which has been done, which makes this attribute. Just saying I'm a hardworking boy really doesn't matter. And they must understand 4,000 words. So they need to trim the words, multiple versions, so that every word that they're writing, it must count.
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, they must show the hunger. Through that application, they must show the eagerness and the hunger in terms of why they really want the scholarship.
Correct. So I think what it also means is that they really need to substantiate everything that they are mentioning in each of these. And others, I hope your question on the differences between the three has been addressed as well. Thanks so much for that, Abhimanyu. Nitika, I'm going to move to you. And there is a question that we've got even from our audience on this, which is Archisha Singh is asking on what be the word limit for the academic referee letter, and maybe I think in addition to that, if you could also help them in understanding how that word limit can be met and yet be very very effective.
Right. So the word limit is, I think it's about 1,000 characters. Is that
4,000,
right?
4,000, yeah,
Uh,
4,000 characters.
for the recommendation as well.
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking at about 1 to 1.5 pages maximum. No reference letter should go beyond that, because then the recommender starts repeating what they're saying in different ways. So the key is to be crisp, to cover the traits the student has developed in the classroom, the skills the student has developed, how they've utilized that through their presentations, their assignments, how they've demonstrated what they've learned. If the recommender is in a capacity to talk about the students' work outside of the classroom, which relates to their majors, which is going to help their application, then the recommender should do that. And yeah, as authentic as it can be, to the point. In fact, I'd like to mention at this point that there's a new concept of how to write recommendation letters. I saw this in one of the emails that was shared by the team, where a student asked, what if my recommender doesn't have the English speaking and writing skills to cover an entire letter? There's a new concept of writing letters, which is like a bullet pointed letter. So again, it's something that a recommender could explore and cover in, like, in the form of an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. So you're giving the same meat, but you're giving it in a more concise manner, because you probably do not have the skills to create that story, like Mr. Basu said.
Great, thanks, Nitika. I think that's helpful. And while there are 4,000 characters, which is the word limit for the essays as well as the reference letters, I think what's important is not to meet that word limit criteria, but it's more on the content and how you're really being able to substantiate with examples that you'd like to portray.
Right.
So that is what they should be focusing on, rather than perhaps looking at the word limit and ensuring that it's down to the T.
And I
Abhimanyu,
think,
you wanted to say something?
yeah, I wanted to say something that, um, all of us are not great communicators, right? And this is something that they are actually telling a story about themselves. And if they find that they're challenged, which they can be, a lot of the kids I know for sure who are very strong in maths and science and computer science, they do not have great writing skills. I think they should go to their English teachers if they have any of those English teachers that they're close to, where they can show them their draft, but ensure that they're writing in their own voice. So the voice should be theirs, but if they need a little bit to express themselves, they can consult people um, within their support network, which is the teachers that they, if they're in a they're undergraduate, they must be having an English teacher in the higher secondary section who knows them well and who can help them to put this together if they find it sort of challenging.
I think that's the beauty of this process, right? And I remember Carla mentioning at the beginning that, while, some of you might make it, some of you might not, but the entire process is extremely learning oriented. And, you'll certainly end up learning a lot more through this process. So once again, ensure that you all apply. In the interest of time, I'm just going to take the last question, and which is to you, Shabri. We've heard so much about who can be a referee, and, this is the right kind of a person to be a referee. Let me reverse the question, and who should not be writing the reference?
Yeah, I mean, I think Mr. Basu touched on this a bit earlier. I don't think approaching people who may have so-called seem to be in a higher position but don't know you will actually benefit you. I really think it's. I mean, it's funny actually because I just had a conversation with somebody today who said, could you write a reference for me? And I said, well, no, I can't, because I don't actually know you and I don't work with you, so I wouldn't do you justice. So I think choosing people who have a title or who are higher up in the hierarchy because you might think that that will impress the admission panel is actually, in my opinion, doing you a disservice. Because the admission panel, from university admissions for sure, and I'm sure the scholarship admission panel works exactly the same way, will be impressed by somebody who writes from their heart to genuinely advocate for you as an individual. So if I was ever asking for a reference, I would definitely ask people who I know me very well, flaws and all, right? But can talk about me as an individual, talk about my strengths, but also talk about how I have worked with my flaws or tried to overcome my development needs, etc. So can write about the authentic me, Shabari, not somebody who can just write a generic paragraph that, yes, this person, as Mr. Basu said, the principal is writing, yes, this person is in class 12, etc., but has no interaction with them. So can't say that they have a sense of humor. And you know what? I know they have a sense of humor because when this happened, they talked about a certain incident in a certain way. So that for me is really important.
Great, thanks, Shabri. So I think what you all need to take away is that you need to find out two referees who really know you well, and you really should make the most of identifying who those two could be, who could represent you extremely well within 4,000 characters. So I'm going to sum up the reference letter questions like that. Thank you so much, panel members, for joining us. Abhimanyu, Shabri, Nitika, it's been
Thank
such a
you.
pleasure conversing with all of you. But before you all go, please do share, any words of wisdom and some advice for all our students who are going to be applying and looking forward to becoming Reliance Foundation scholars.
Do you mind if I go first? Obviously, it's a very competitive scholarship. And this is something that I say to my students all the time who apply for very competitive places all over the world or within India, that not getting a spot doesn't mean that you are not amazing. It just means it isn't the right time for you. And I think that is something that I really, really try and get my students and the people I work with to believe, that we all have a lot of special talents and sometimes they come out at different times of our life. And the key is to keep trying and to always try and live our best life.
Thanks, Shabri. Really, really beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I can go next, and then Mr. Basu can cover it all up. So, my advice would be hit the big three, tell your story, its implication, and how it connects to what you want to pursue in the future.
Thanks so much for that, Nitika. Really well summed up. Abhimanyu, if you would like to say a few words.
I think they need to make sure that whatever the process they follow, they must make themselves stand out and highlight who they are as a person and why they want to do this and why they're worthy of this scholarship. That's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And the clock strikes 7, and we are almost, ending the time that we had for the session today. So thank you so much for joining us once again. A very, very big thank you, and I'm sure the students learned a lot. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So that brings us to the end of our second webinar for the Reliance Foundation Scholarship. And if any of you, still have questions that weren't answered during the session, don't worry. Please visit our website and read our FAQ section, as well as a lot of guidance is available to the applicants on the website. You can also text our chat bot or also email us directly. So go ahead and let us know if you still have queries. We did receive a question around whether this entire session is going to be recorded and available for later purpose. Yes, it will be. So please do check out the recording, which would also be available on the website that you can have a look at. Really, really hope that you're now all equipped to make a very impressive application. Don't forget that the last day to apply is 14th February 2022. So visit the website right away and keep your applications flowing in, and all the very best for them. Now, coming up, we have an enlightening masterclass featuring experts and leaders from the fields of artificial intelligence and data analytics, which will be taking place on the 25th of January. So if you haven't registered for it already, please make sure you do, because it's going to be an extremely exciting session. And I certainly look forward to seeing you all there. Till then, don't let your guard down and stay safe. But before you go, you've heard so much and so many suggestions from all of us today, but don't take our word for it. I'm going to leave you today with an experience that was shared by one amongst you. Yes, from one of our Reliance Foundation scholars who went through the entire process last year and wanted to share his experience. So, this is me, Aarti, signing off, and I'm going to see you next week as I leave you with the experience of our Reliance Foundation scholar, Prashant Vaidya from IIT Hyderabad. Bye bye.
Reliance Foundation Scholarships, my experience and helpful tips for applicants. Here's a small disclaimer. Hi, I'm Prashant Vaidya, currently a master's student in the Department of Computer Science at IIT Hyderabad. Last year, I was one of the 38 PG students to be awarded the Reliance Foundation Scholarship. And in this video, I'll be sharing about my Reliance Foundation Scholarship experience and things that were helpful for me in the process. This will not cover details like eligibility criteria, deadlines, documents that need to be submitted, etc. Please visit the official scholarships.reliancefoundation.org and you'll find a lot of helpful resources organized wonderfully in the form of brochures and videos there. So why should you apply? My experience with Reliance Foundation scholarships has been immensely positive and can vouch that they're very committed to their mission and care deeply for India's youth. Personally, I found the entire process, that is essays and interview, to be very enjoyable, and I'd like to express my immense gratitude to Reliance Foundation team, who, apart from having provided us great financial assistance, have also provided us with a network of highly driven peers, have sent us really cool goodies, have kept our students motivated by organizing guest lectures and expert interactions, a gesture that is highly appreciated in the times of a pandemic. So here's what the process looks like. Firstly, you'll be asked to fill an eligibility questionnaire and then you'll receive access to the online application portal. The process from here on can be long and arduous. Breaking down the process into chunks can help you feel less overwhelmed. So, here are the chunks involved. You'll need to fill in details and submit necessary documents on the portal related to personal, academic, and extracurriculars. And then you'll need to write 2 essays. One will be a personal statement, and the other one is statement of purpose. After that, you'll have to nominate people, and they'll have to provide 2 letters of reference. One to vouch your academic capabilities, and second that vouches for your character. And finally, once you're done with all these steps, if you're shortlisted, you'll be invited to an interview. Here are some tips that can help you. Gamify the process. The process is similar to a typical US university's application process. The process being long has its advantages. Understand that once you meet the basic eligibility, it's a level playing field. The ball really is in your court and you're being evaluated in a holistic manner. So, you can use time to your advantage to craft your essays well. Treat it as a game rather than a chore you need to get done. You can treat the process of writing essays as a way to introspect your career and your personal journey. You can treat the process of asking for letters of reference as an opportunity to reconnect with teachers or professors who you may not be in touch with at the moment. Just make it enjoyable. The next one is do not be lazy. The application process can easily take several days. Don't start the application one day before the deadline. Understand that you also need letters of reference from people who can vouch for you, and you have to respect their schedule as well. Prepare a checklist of every document you need to submit. Have enough buffer time to proofread your essays and iterate over them a few times before you submit. It's about you. Of course, it will be competitive like most things in India, but forget about the competition and reflect inwards. Someone out there will always be studying at a better college, have a better CGPA, have done better internships, have done better projects, etc. But They are interested in hearing your personal statement and your statement of purpose. Use it to describe your personal journey, your passion, your struggles, and your long term career goals. Do not blindly copy any templates available online. Do not ask someone else to write the essays for you. This is a brilliant opportunity for you to introspect and tell the world a story that's all about you. Use it well. Do not self reject. Having self confidence is key. A lot of folks will not apply because they think they're not good enough yet. Do not be one of them. You might be surprised that a good number of scholars did face some amount of self doubt but still went ahead and completed the application process to the best of their abilities. Understand the scholarship values: excellence, leadership potential, integrity, community commitment, growth mindset, and courage. Knowing them can help you craft better essays or perform better in the interview. But make sure the stories that reflect these values are genuine. Some more tips about personal statement. In this essay, you can cover your special interests, passion, abilities, life goals, etc. For instance, the focus of my essay was on my passion for building products and teaching. About statement of purpose. In this essay, you can justify the choice of your degree program, what you're planning to specialize in, and how the scholarship will enable you to achieve your goals. It's perfectly alright to not have absolute clarity over everything. You can refer to the brochure to know more on what to write. About letters of reference. Personally, I reached out to professors who knew me well during my time at college rather than relying only on credentials. If you don't know someone well, chances are they may not be able to do a good job in vouching for you. Also, check the brochure to find out who is eligible to be your referee. Tackling the interview. Treat the interview as a conversation to express yourself. The panel was very friendly and highly professional. Know that they're trying to select rather than reject you. This mindset shift can be useful to make yourself feel calmer during the process. My interview mostly revolved around my essays and my projects, technical details, and how I was planning to take them to the next level. It also involved hypothetical questions like how can AI be used to tackle educational challenges, how can AI be used to tackle mental health problems, etc. I do not recollect the exact questions, but they had an emphasis on growth mindset and community commitment. To sum it up, be genuine, have the right mindset, and half the battle is won. Wish you the best of luck.